When we first met, it felt like the kind of love people write about. The whirlwind dinners, the whispered promises of forever, the belief that no obstacle could ever touch us. I was young, driven, and convinced that the best way to prove my love was to build a future sturdy enough to carry all her dreams. So I worked longer hours, took extra shifts, and poured everything into making sure she never felt the weight of worry. At first, she smiled at my devotion. She said she admired how determined I was. But slowly, the warmth in her eyes began to cool. The gratitude turned into expectation, and expectation slid into entitlement. Her thank yous dried up, replaced with criticisms about what I hadn't done yet. I brushed it off through exhaustion, telling myself marriage always had rough patches. Yet there were moments, quiet, fleeting, when her phone buzzed late at night, or when I caught her lingering glances across crowded rooms. I ignored them, desperate to believe our foundation was unshakable. Looking back, I should have recognized the subtle cracks weren't random. They were leading her straight into someone else's arms. It started small. She stopped waiting up for me when I got home late, no longer asking how my day had gone. Her smile, once effortless, became a performance she turned on for strangers, but never for me. The warmth of her touch vanished. Weeks would pass without her hand ever reaching for mine. I told myself she was stressed, maybe tired, maybe just distracted. But those excuses began to wear thin. Before long, the distance became cruelty. At family gatherings, she mocked me in front of relatives, rolling her eyes when I spoke, laughing dismissively at the very sacrifices I thought she valued. I saw pity in the faces of cousins and uncles, pity that burned deeper than her words. She seemed to enjoy cutting me down, as if belittling me sharpened her sparkle. I bit my tongue, faithful as ever, convincing myself loyalty meant endurance. But the truth has a way of creeping in through the cracks. Her yoga nights stretched later and later, her phone constantly lighting up with messages that erased her smile once I noticed. Then, one evening, my suspicion crystallized. I walked past a cafe and saw her through the window, leaning far too close to her lawyer, his hand on hers, their laughter intimate. That's when denial finally shattered. The courtroom felt like a stage designed for my humiliation. My wife walked in as though she'd already won, her lawyer swaggering at her side, both of them oozing confidence. I sat there with trembling hands, clutching documents that suddenly felt meaningless. When the judge announced the verdict, all assets awarded to her, the air rushed out of my lungs. I stared at the empty space where my future used to stand, stripped bare in a single sentence. She smirked, leaning into him, kissing him with the kind of triumph reserved for victors. It was meant to break me, to show the world I was nothing. For a moment it worked. I felt the crushing weight of defeat, a man gutted not just of wealth, but of dignity. But while they thrived on their arrogance, I held something they didn't know. I'd been preparing. Quietly, I had started a new career path, rebuilding behind the scenes. The house, the car, the accounts. Yes, they were gone. But I had shifted my focus to skills, to opportunities, to a rebirth they would never see coming. That day I lost everything material, but I also realized, sometimes destruction is the only spark strong enough to start a fire. For a while, she paraded her victory like a crown. New clothes, new photos, new smiles splashed across social media. Each post a dagger meant for me. The lawyer was always by her side, the prize she flaunted to prove she'd traded up. But arrogance is a fragile currency. Once my assets had been siphoned, once the shine of her conquest dulled, his hand slipped from hers. The man who kissed her so boldly in court suddenly found other cases, other women, other games to play. She was left with nothing but debts and whispers. The respect she once demanded replaced by laughter behind her back. Meanwhile, I rebuilt. Quietly, steadily. Free of her demands, I poured myself into my new career. Into friendships I had neglected. Into the kind of life no one could strip away. When I crossed paths with her again, she looked hollow, a faded echo of the woman who smirked at verdicts. I didn't need revenge. Her downfall was already complete. My triumph was simple. I had myself, and that was worth more than everything she'd stolen. In the end, losing everything wasn't a curse, it was freedom. What I thought was destruction was really a doorway. A forced shedding of chains I didn't even realize I carried. Possessions can be stolen. Reputations can be smeared, but dignity? That is untouchable if you refuse to surrender it. And the truth about karma is simple. It doesn't forget, it doesn't delay, and it never misses its mark. What would you have done standing in my place? Fight fire with fire, or walk away with dignity intact? Share your thoughts in the comments, and don't miss the next jaw-dropping story of betrayal, karma, and unforgettable justice.